T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. All three engines up and burning. 2, 1, 0, and liftoff.
Welcome, fellow citizens of tech. We are your hosts, Ethan Banks and Eric Sepfin. We talk about science, gadgets, astronomy, gaming, and any orthogonal or tangential topic we find interesting. For those of you that have been listening to the show, you'll find that today we're moving to a slightly new format, a half hour. That's right, we're going to figure out how to get to the point, move on, and shut our yaps after 30 minutes. Less bluster and more content that gets to the point. By the way, we need your help to grow this show. Therefore, fellow citizen, evangelize the program to other citizens in your area. Spread the gospel of this podcast to all the other tech-minded folks in your life. Did I say knock on doors? Hey, if that's your interpretation, I'm not saying no. And now on with the show. Eric, what have we got?
Well, today we've got the Citizens of Tech Holiday Gift Guide, discussion about the floundering Mac App Store, Thunderbird ain't no Phoenix, rockets landing in real life just like in the cartoons, and a little bit of Today I Learned.
Ooh, holiday gift guide.
Do tell. Holiday gift guide. Yeah. So, I found myself looking at various sites. ThinkGeek was my hot site the other day as I was going through looking for things for my kids and wife and whatnot. And I turned up a handful of things here. The first one, I actually grabbed one of these, and I'm claiming that this is for my kid. It's not really for me, but I really like it too. It's a Legend of Zelda lenticular 3D Link shadow box. So that's a mouthful. Basically what this thing is.
Yeah. You got to explain what the heck a lenticular shadow box is.
So the lenticular was actually a term that I know I've read before, but I wasn't super familiar with. Lenticular things are, it's when, based on the angle of it, you see different things. Basically you think of like, oh, that's a holographic image or whatever. So as you move it, you see these various Link characters all lined up in different poses. They're from all the different versions of the game, or many different versions of the game. And so it's a limited edition shadow box, which is a framed box with this image that moves depending on how you're looking at it. And it's just super cool to look at. There's an animated screenshot of it on the ThinkGeek site, and it's just super cool. One of my kids is really into Zelda. So that was the first one that popped up for me. And then
for your kid.
I mean, yeah, my kid. Did I say for me?
It did come out that way, yeah.
Oops. So the next one just made me laugh, and I think that this would be hilarious to use as a stocking stuffer. It is canned unicorn meat. I don't really need to say too much more about that, I don't think. It's a can of unicorn meat. Not really.
Is it? Oh, it's fake? I was wondering if they'd authenticated the unicorns.
We are now cloning them directly into cans. No, but it's funny. It has magic in every bite on the label, and it's
Is it actually an edible? Whatever. I mean, obviously it's not real unicorn, but is there actually an edible product in there?
It is not. It specifically says no, you can't eat this.
Okay.
It does not say what it actually contains, but. It has glitter in it, and it looks like little chunks of meat, but it has glitter and all that in it. It's an excellent source of sparkles, according to the can.
Okay.
So it's, for $10, how can you go wrong, right? The promo shots for the product are great. Okay, next one is also from ThinkGeek. It's the classic video game controller ornament set. So for your Christmas tree, you can hang this set of retro controller ornaments. This ornament set is really cool, especially if you have been playing video games since back around the Atari 2600 era, because it has the Atari 2600, an NES controller, a Genesis controller, and a PS1 controller. So these are not full size. These are slightly reduced.
You assumed.
It's reduced weight and reduced size so that you don't.
Life size, you'd hang one on the tree and it'd fall right over.
I mean, I guess you could try it, but so they're just really cool little ornaments, and they can spruce up your nerdy Christmas tree.
You just reminded me. I gotta. So this isn't in our pre-prepared script, dear listener, but. Man, I had no idea you could get into custom controllers for gaming rigs, and now that I have a son who's really into gaming, like this all started with the Microsoft Xbox One Elite that comes with a customizable controller with different size thumbsticks and different things you can add to this controller.
Yeah.
And there's also a company called Scuff, I believe, that makes these customizable controllers. It's astonishing. The minimal, or I don't say minimal, the minute advantages you can gain that actually matter when you're a real high-end gamer. And
yeah,
so
especially when you
scary
get
stuff.
into competitive gaming and things like that. Microseconds actually can make a difference.
So if you didn't know, parents, and you got a gaming kid, or if you're gaming yourself that's really into the PvP stuff, you can get your own hot rodded up controller. Anyway, I found a few things too, Eric, for our holiday gift guide, and one is that I've been looking at for years and haven't pulled the trigger on. Gunners.com. These are glasses, eyewear for the computer. Gunners is GUNNARS.com, and they're kind of iconic. If you've seen ads for them, they have these yellow tinted lenses typically, and you're thinking it's a total hoax. It's just, do these stupid things actually work and do anything for you? And the point of them is to reduce digital eye strain. And they have on their some of their marketing on their website for Gunners, naked eyes are not designed to stare at artificial blue light. And as I read the descriptions of people who struggle with this, it comes from staring at a computer monitor all day and your eyes start to kind of burn and you maybe have minor headaches and different things towards the end of the working day. And I'm tempted to try these things. So you can get into a set of Gunners for about $75. A little pricey, but lifehacker.com had an article I found that says, yeah, for certain people, they really do work. It's not just a hoax. It does seem like the real deal. So,
yeah, certain people, certain monitors, distance between you and the monitor, how long you're sitting there. Yep. There's a whole range of factors that work in here. But it's funny you mentioned the hot-rodded controllers for competitive gaming, because often you'll see people that do Let's Plays on Twitch and people that do competitive gaming often wear either Gunners or Ray-Ban version of them because they're sitting in front of their computer or TV playing video games for 10 or 14 hours a day. So yeah, I mean, I've always kind of wondered how much of a benefit they are. And so the article that basically said, yeah, it might work if you XYZ, and if you're not, then it might not be for you. But it's a real thing, so it's interesting stuff.
Keeping in the theme of gaming, I also found a company called X Gaming that makes the X Arcade Classic gaming console. So, Eric, up here in our area, we have the American Classic Arcade Museum at Fun Spot in Meredith or Wears Beach, New Hampshire. I forget the township it's in. That's fairly nearby us, and they have hundreds upon hundreds of these old-style console games like you used to get in the 70s, 80s, and I guess into the 90s as well. That's where you'd go if you wanted to play the real deal game, because your Atari 2600, yeah, it was okay, but if you wanted to play the real version of Pac-Man, by golly, you loaded up some quarters in your pocket, you headed out, and you pumped these things into this big floor-standing machine with a screen and a full joystick, and that was the authentic experience. So X Arcade... the X Arcade Classic gaming console is basically that. They've built a massive cabinet with a screen inside of it, and then underneath it, if you open it up, you've got a bunch of different ways to deliver hundreds of classic games into that system. You can order it with a PC, you can order it with a PlayStation, and they have got serial controllers and so on that map to the buttons and the joysticks and the trackball that are all up in the front panel before you, that are all usable depending on what game it is that you're playing. And so it'll ship with 250 games, and then you can extend it with MAME, the multiple arcade machine emulator that you can download and use on your PC, and then you get ROMs for it, and you can play classic arcade games that way. And you can have all of this joy and delight in your home for the low starting price of $2,600. Woohoo!
It's a bargain.
I'll tell you, though, I went up to their site and watched a video of a couple of guys reviewing this thing, and it's marketing, but I mean, you really got a sense of what the system was all about, and it looked like a lot of fun.
Oh, they've put it together really, really well. It's a slick package. And it comes with a 29-inch CRT monitor by default because, the old-style games just work better on a CRT. So I'm surprised they can source 29-inch CRTs, to be honest. But yeah, it's super cool if you got, almost $3,000 to drop.
I don't, but I mean, I would love to have one. I would just love
That's one
to
of
have
those,
one. It
it's
looks
actually
so
one of those
awesome.
projects that you can do on your own if you're, mechanically and woodwork compatible.
I wonder if we could go to FunSpot and say, any of these you guys are just going to chuck, got an old cabinet, we'll give you some money for it, and maybe we could rescue a cabinet and do a project like that. That'd be kind of interesting.
I have a buddy that built a bar top arcade machine.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't have the stand-up monitor. You actually look down.
Yep. I know exactly the format you're talking about.
Yeah, I think he spent like $450 making it, including the PC components. So I mean, if you really can stomach the DIY aspect, you can make one of these for significantly less.
Well, hey, speaking of DIY, we all like to DIY in the kitchen, right? So, food, yes. And I came up with a nerdy cookbook, or what I think, not a nerdy cookbook so much as a cookbook that would appeal to nerds. And this is called Melt, The Art of Macaroni and Cheese. And I'll read you the description right from Amazon's page. It's the first book to marry the American standard mac and cheese with handcrafted artisan cheeses and a wide array of pastas, producing dishes that are both classic and chic. And then it goes on and on. It talks about all these different flavors to kind of whet your appetite for what macaroni and cheese truly could be. Because after all, they are elevating it to an art form. Now, Eric, you and I were talking before the show about our kids and that they like, their daddy's version of mac and cheese. Does this book do anything for you?
I am on board with this. Yeah, the idea of, I don't know how many recipes are in here, but I'm reading a little description here. It looks like there's a ton. You can't go wrong with mac and cheese. I will agree with them that there's an art there.
So not a long holiday gift guide this year, just a few things to whet your appetite and get you thinking. Because, it's Christmas after all. It's the holidays.
It's coming up.
So moving on, the Mac App Store is upsetting some software companies. I found a story on 9to5mac.com and then a related story on blog.sketchapp.com about a company called Sketch that is leaving the Mac App Store. So for those of you that aren't in the Apple world, maybe you don't really care about this, but I want to kind of highlight a bigger issue. And if you think about how you consume applications on your phone, you've got an app store. There's no doubt many of you listening to this show who have an iPhone or an Android phone, and you go up to one of a variety of different stores, and depending on what platform you're on, and you click the button, and you know how this system works, you pay for and then download an app, and it's wonderful, and you get automatic updates and so on. It's an extremely convenient way to consume software. Well, the full-blown Mac desktop system, the laptops and like the iMac that I'm using right now to record this, has an app store as well. Only Apple hasn't given it a whole lot of attention, which kind of sucks. If you consider the uptick in Mac sales, just how many more, Mac continues to sell more of these things, and it's many millions of dollars worth of business for them. Nothing compared to the phone business, but it's still a growing business for them. It just sucks to see this part of the ecosystem unloved by Apple.
It sounds like they're missing a train here because it's so convenient to just, when I did have a Mac, to just open up the App Store and click install, and you're done. It's like using your mobile device. It's foolproof.
So Sketch, this app that got pulled here, they talk about why they left in their blog. And by the way, all the links to these stories and all the holiday gift ideas, that's all be on citizensoftech.com. Just go to that show, citizensoftech.com/e/19, and you'll be able to see all the links, everything we talk about here. But just a quote from blog.sketchapp.com, they say that app review continues to take at least a week. There are technical limitations imposed by the Mac App Store guidelines, sandboxing and so on, that limit some of the features we want to bring to Sketch, and upgrade pricing remains unavailable, which is kind of a big deal. If you already have the app and you just want to upgrade, you should be able to do that through the App Store, and in fact, you cannot.
Right. You have to either pitch it as a brand new installation. It's messy. So next here is Thunderbird is a tax on Firefox development, and Mozilla wants to drop it. This is via Ars Technica. So Mozilla's executive chairwoman, Mitchell Baker, has announced that Mozilla would like to stop supporting Thunderbird, according to Ars Technica. calling its continuing maintenance a tax on the more important work of developing Firefox. The article also says many inside Mozilla, including an overwhelming majority of our leadership, feel the need to be laser focused on activities like Firefox that can have an industry-wide impact, Baker writes. With all due respect to Thunderbird and the Thunderbird community, we have been clear for years that we do not view Thunderbird as having this sort of potential. So what's your take on this, Ethan?
Well, those of you that don't know, first of all, Thunderbird's an email client. It's got a lot of history. It goes back many years, and it was, back in the day, pretty awesome of an email client. It was fairly well supported. There were a good number of plugins for it, and it was one of those that, again, for the most part, just worked and worked on a variety of platforms.
I still use it.
And yeah, I know people that still use it, and there's also been forks of Thunderbird, like Postbox for the Mac, that are based on Thunderbird. Mm-hmm. So, to me, I feel like I'm missing something here, because in my world, email is still really important.
Sadly.
I would also say I've described my inbox to people as a wasteland of despair, because it usually is. It doesn't matter how many lists I unsubscribe from and so on. I just seem to get an overwhelming amount of, not junk mail, but just a constant influx of messages from people that are difficult to keep up with and always seem to demand a response. And so I see an opportunity for the Mozilla Foundation to maybe really truly fix email. I don't know how, and maybe that's really the problem.
Yeah, maybe they don't have, maybe they don't have the motivation to be a revolutionary player in that segment, and B, even if they did, maybe they don't have a clear idea and understanding or a plan of attack to become that disruptive technology.
You know what's been the most disruptive in that sense for me has been Slack, the Slack application.
It continues to gain traction, especially with younger users.
Well, Slack it's kind of like IRC for the modern era. You have rooms and organizations and then channels, and you can have private chats and so on. There's
with
no video or audio yet, although they bought someone that's supposed to be able to give them that. But right. Notifications, you can hook in. Yeah, I'm talking about the people part. You're talking about the cool part, which is the all the extensibility of it. So I can have
Trello. You can integrate that.
So for example, when Trello, we use Trello to produce some of the shows over on Packet Pushers. And when there's a Trello action, it just shows up in Slack. So I don't have to check Trello all the time. I can just kind of watch the Trello data stream flow by within Slack. Mm-hmm. And when something is an action item for me, I go deal with it. And there's tons and tons of app integrations that are available between, like Twitter, for example, over to Slack. So there's a number of things you can do in that way. And so for me, Slack has replaced a lot of email. I mean, I talk to lots of people now via Slack instead of email. The way I look at email, email is, I think it's how you communicate rudely to people you don't care about in a time frame that doesn't matter. That's how I think of email.
So true. The passive aggressive email. I mean, email is sort of one of those things that, at the beginning of the workday, for example, you fire up your email client and you go, oh, how many emails did I get? Or, or for that, in that vein of thought, maybe you've been checking your phone all night, and then as soon as you woke up, you looked at your emails before you even got out of bed. Email is just this pervasive thing that's always there. And it demands responses. It makes, it takes work to read. It takes work to respond.
Exactly. If I read it, usually it's because it's the sort of a message I have to respond to, which means, oh gosh, I got to sit and actually think of a response. And I don't know what it is. Sometimes I just can't get there. I can't do it.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm work too hard at email. I don't know. But another weird thing about what Mitchell said, she kind of intimates that Firefox is a way to change the world. But I look at Firefox, it's just another browser, I don't understand what she's getting at with this. You've got Chrome, incredibly popular. Apple's got Safari. Microsoft keeps iterating on Internet Explorer. I don't think they call it that anymore, do they? Didn't they change the name?
Well, the new version is Edge. Yeah, Microsoft Edge.
Which has gotten good reviews. And so why is it she thinks Firefox, just a way to consume the web, has this amazing potential to change the world, whereas fixing the way we deal with email isn't. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I can see, Firefox is often sort of on the bleeding edge, but it's never leaps and bounds ahead of Chrome, for instance.
They flip flop for me.
Yeah. Oh, okay. We were the first to introduce HTTP2, but then the other one added it 2 weeks later, or what, before the next major version came out. So what difference does it make? Firefox isn't even in the top 3 browsers in use according to Net Market Share. That's a website that tracks. IE11 is number 1 at this point, apparently, followed by Chrome, and then 2 other versions of Internet Explorer before the latest version of Firefox. So,
who knew Internet Explorer was still that popular?
Yeah, well, when you're the default browser in corporate environments, that applies.
Yeah, good point.
A skewing to the numbers.
Well, let's skew towards space. Blue Origin sticks a rocket landing, and it's a major step towards reusable spaceflight. Another story from ArsTechnica.com. And to quote the article, Jeff Bezos, founder of Blue Origin, says in a statement, Blue Origin's reusable New Shepard space vehicle flew a flawless mission, soaring to 329,839 feet and then returning through 119-mile-an-hour high-altitude crosswinds to make a gentle, controlled landing just 4.5 feet from the center of the pad. Full reuse is a game changer, and we can't wait to fuel up and fly again. And so just to give you an idea of what happened here, they shot a small rocket with a payload up into, up that high, 329,000 plus feet. The payload was ejected and then parachuted back down to Earth on its own. And then the rocket, the vehicle that delivered that payload, fell back down to Earth. But it didn't just smack into the ground and shatter. It upon descending, it gets to about 12,000 feet. The rocket reignites, slows it down, and it maintains stability as it descends vertically. And just as you got to watch the video on this; it's pretty awesome. Just before it hits the ground, it just floats a bit and then settles gently. After deploying these little landing arms off to the side, and it was right on target. I mean, there's so much going on to have pulled that off. Just extraordinary.
It's
you watched
staggering.
The video too.
Yeah. Watching the video was like otherworldly watching this thing land, because you look at the thruster angles as it's correcting for the wind and the gravitational pull and all that, and it's like watching a pendulum swing back and forth, because it shifts one way and then it shifts the other and it shifts the other, and it's making minor corrections, and then it just gently kind of set down, and that was it. And if you have any exposure whatsoever to logistics of rocketry, my almost entire exposure to that comes from Kerbal Space Program, that game that we spoke about several podcasts ago. Just watching that and thinking, oh wow, the vector adjustments on that and the thrust adjustments, and it's like, man, there's so many computational changes going on in such a short period of time. It was just awesome to watch.
So a couple other points here. If you've never heard of Blue Origin, and I hadn't before this story came out, to me, all I'd ever heard about was Elon Musk's SpaceX program, right? And because they've been working on this and on this exact problem, how to get a rocket fuel delivery system, get that rocket back to Earth so that it could be reused. And they failed in their landing attempts, trying to land it on a mobile seaborne platform. So the Ars Technica article points out that what SpaceX is attempting is more difficult because the Falcon 9 rocket flies payloads into orbit and requires considerably more thrust. Blue Origin's rocket only made a comparatively easier suborbital flight because it only went to 329, didn't actually get into outer space.
Right.
Nevertheless, landing like this is a significant achievement. Now, some of you have to be that know a bit about space and all of that have to be thinking of the space shuttle program going, we totally have reusable stuff. We've been doing this for a long time. And I dug in on this, and that is sort of true. So if you think of the space shuttle, Eric, we've got that iconic image of the shuttle on the launch pad. You got the two solid rocket boosters on the outside, the gigantic fuel tank in the middle, and the space shuttle on top of that external fuel tank.
Yep.
Okay. Well, of that, the solid rocket boosters were reusable, but of course they just fell into the ocean and were hauled back in. They didn't land. They didn't
return home.
No, right. They didn't return home at all. They would actually go out with boats and haul them back in.
Yep.
The shuttle itself, of course, was reusable. We know that case. The external fuel tank was not reusable, however, because it would fall back through the atmosphere and then it would disintegrate after use. And so it was gone. You could not reuse that massive thing.
It's the single largest piece of the rocket.
Oh, it's absolutely huge. And but yeah, I mean it is what it is. It falls back to the atmosphere and disintegrates.
Yeah, not much you could do about that at the time, especially.
I guess I don't know. I mean, I think about the shuttle, and if you ever watch any specials on it, the shuttle's not much of a flyer, really. It's pretty clunky. It's kind of a big glider.
Yeah.
Needs a long runway, and you're just kind of. I mean, you're not really flying it. You're kind of. Please don't flip over. Please don't do anything weird. Please just I just want to land. I just want to land. Is kind of what it is. I've heard it's kind of like driving a dump truck. It's not really ideal for what it's being asked to do, but it works. But Blue Origin, so cool that we're getting there, and so the point of all of that was we get a reusable rocket. It lowers the cost of getting into space. That is one of the major barriers of all of this. And so, in theory, one of these days, Eric, you and I will be recording Citizens of Tech from I don't know, Blue Origin or a SpaceX
from
trip.
lower Earth orbit.
From lower Earth orbit. Wouldn't that be cool?
That would be amazing. So moving on to content I like here, Yesterbits. What is this, Ethan?
Content I like, Yesterbits on Twitter. This is a Twitter account I follow, twitter.com/Yesterbits, and they just post about neat old computer stuff that makes me nostalgic. Old floppy disks and weird connectors and strange consoles and so on, and other bits of computery nostalgia. It's just a fun little site. Go, again, if you're a Twitter user, twitter.com/Yesterbits, a fun account to follow. And I've got a lot more weird ones that I follow that are interesting. And we'll cover some more of those in some later shows.
Yeah, I was just looking through there. I now follow Yesterbits too, because I was just looking while you were talking. And yeah, there's some awesome stuff in here.
There's some way cool stuff.
That's great.
Now, in addition to Yesterbits, today I learned some things, Eric. I learned a couple of things.
What did you learn?
Well, one, the shuttle landing facility, since we were just talking about the space shuttle, the shuttle landing facility covers 500 acres and has a single runway numbered 15/33. This runway is one of the longest runways in the world at 15,000 feet, and it is 300 feet wide. Yeah.
Wow.
That comes from Wikipedia. And I learned something else also because I've been hiking and it's getting cold around here and things are starting to freeze up. Water's starting to freeze, but not all the water freezes. If it's moving down a river, there's too much energy for it to freeze. And as I was reading up on that, I learned something else, and that is this. Supercooled liquid water can get down to 55 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit. That's minus 48 degrees Celsius before it absolutely must freeze. Supercooled liquid water must become ice at minus 55 Fahrenheit, not just because of the extreme cold, but because the molecular structure of water changes physically to form tetrahedron shapes, with each water molecule loosely bonded to 4 others. That comes from phys.org, phys.org, in an article that we will link to in the show notes at citizensoftech.com.
Water is amazing, and I would love to do a deeper dive.
Deep dive on
that
water
at
coming.
a later date.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, that brings us to the end of this edition of Citizens of Tech. And in closing today, allow us to remind you that when we create strong AI, it's going to stab you in the back. So dumb that code down, people. You developers are going to wipe out humanity, and that just ain't cool. Until next week, I'm Ethan Banks at ECBanks on Twitter.
And I'm Eric Zutphen at Zutphen on Twitter.
And this has been Citizens of Tech. Farewell.